I got home after my brother's wedding, still wearing the suit I'd worn to toast his new life. The house was quiet, too quiet for 11:30 at night. I found Margaret in the garage, sitting on the cold floor, her hands trembling. She wouldn't look at me. On her palm, smeared in blue ink, was a phone number. "A judge gave it to me," she whispered. "He said you'd know why. I didn't move at first. I just stood there, one hand on the garage door frame, trying to understand what I was looking at." Margaret wasn't someone who broke easily. In 40 years of marriage I'd seen her tired, frustrated, even defeated, but never like this. Never shaking, never hollow-eyed, never so lost she couldn't lift her head. "Margaret," I said quietly, stepping toward her. "Honey, what happened?" She flinched when I got close, like my voice had startled something inside her. She tried to wipe the ink from her palm, but it only smeared deeper into the lines of her skin. The number, those 6 digits, uneven and rushed, stayed clear as day. "I didn't want him to write it," she whispered, eyes flicking toward the garage door as if someone might burst in. "I told him I didn't want to be part of anything. But he said it was about you." My stomach dropped. Who said that?" "The judge," she breathed. "Judge Halverton." The name hit me like a cold fist. I knew Halverton. Everyone did. He'd been a district judge for 30 years. Sharp, unshakable. A reputation for blunt honesty and a temper he tried but failed to hide. I'd only spoken to him once in my life, back when my brother Michael was 18 and got caught drag racing. Halverton was the one who gave him community service instead of jail time. My mother cried in gratitude for a week. "What did he say to you?" I crouched beside her. "Start from the beginning." She shook her head slowly, like she was afraid saying it out loud might make something irreversible. "He came up to me after the reception. Said he needed 2 minutes, only 2 minutes," he kept repeating. "I thought maybe he recognized me from your old case, or maybe he knew someone in the family. I didn't think anything of it." I swallowed hard, and then he took me aside. Behind the catering tent, Margaret's voice trembled. "He said there was something he couldn't tell you directly. Something he didn't trust delivering through anyone else. And he kept looking over his shoulder, like he expected someone to follow him." A chill ran through me. Judges don't slip secret messages to wedding guests. They don't scribble phone numbers onto the palms of women they've never met. "What exactly were his words?" I asked. She closed her eyes, repeating them from memory. "He said, 'Tell your husband this number must be called before midnight. He'll understand why.'" I stared at her. Midnight. It was 11:42 p.m. Margaret pulled her hand to her chest, clutching it like the ink burned. "David, what does this mean? Why would a judge come to me? Why wouldn't he just talk to you?" "I don't know," I said, though my mind was already racing, spinning through every memory, every conversation from the wedding. Nothing had seemed unusual. My brother looked happy, exhausted, a little drunk. The speeches had been heartfelt. The dancing went late. Nothing, not a single moment, hinted at anything dark, except... No, I hadn't thought about it until now. But just before we left, I did see Judge Halverton in the parking lot. He was leaning into someone's car window, talking quickly, his hands gesturing sharply. When he noticed me looking, he straightened, forced a stiff smile, and walked the other direction. At the time I thought he was just tired. Now replaying it, his face hadn't looked tired. It looked scared. Margaret wiped her eyes. "What if this is about Michael?" My throat tightened. "What makes you say that?" "He kept saying your brother, even though I didn't mention him. He said, 'Tell your brother he can't outrun this forever.' And then he realized I wasn't you." He went pale. "He said he misspoke, that he meant your husband. He corrected himself so fast, it didn't feel like a mistake." I froze. A heavy, quiet pressure settled on my chest. "And he still gave you the number?" "Yes." Margaret nodded. "He said, 'Give him this, and tell him, I'm done covering. And then he walked away. Everything inside me went still. Done covering, covering, quivering. What? Michael wasn't perfect. No one in our family was, but he wasn't someone a judge would be covering for, and certainly not for decades. Margaret pulled her sweater tighter around her. David, I'm scared. I've never seen a man look like that. Not a judge. Not someone who's supposed to be calm, in control. He looked like he was carrying something too heavy for him. I took a slow breath. Okay, we're going inside. We'll call the number. Together. She shook her head violently. No. He said you had to call it alone. I didn't like any of this. None of it made sense, but the clock was ticking, and every minute we wasted only made the pressure worse. I helped Margaret stand. Her legs were weak, trembling under her. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. When we walked into the house, the lights felt harsher than usual. Something about the kitchen looked unfamiliar even though nothing had changed. Margaret stood near the counter, hugging herself, watching me like she was afraid I'd disappear. Do you have your phone? She asked. I nodded and pulled it from my suit pocket. The wedding program was still folded in there, a smiling picture of Michael and his new wife printed across the front. I set it aside. The number on Margaret's hand was still visible through the smeared ink. I typed it carefully into my phone, double-checking each digit. Before I hit call, Margaret reached for my arm. David, before you do this, do you know anything? Anything at all that he might be talking about? I shook my head slowly. If I did, I'd tell you. Her eyes searched mine, looking for something, truth, reassurance, maybe even a lie she could believe in. I didn't give one. I didn't have one to give. I stepped a few feet away, just enough to give her the distance Halverton had insisted on. My thumb hovered over the call button. The clock on the microwave clicked to 11:53 p.m. I pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered, but didn't speak. I cleared my throat. This is David. David Mallory. Judge Halverton gave my wife this number. A low breath came through the line, the kind you hear when someone is trying to steady themselves. Then a voice, shaky, strained, older than I expected, whispered, David, your brother lied to you, and I can't protect him anymore. The line crackled, like someone else was listening. Then the voice added something that made my blood go cold. He knows I'm talking to you. You need to leave your house right now. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. They pressed against my chest, like a weight I wasn't prepared to lift. Behind me, Margaret's soft footsteps moved closer, her breath catching as she whispered, What is he saying? David, what did he say? I held up my hand, signaling her to stay back. The line crackled again like someone had brushed against the phone on the other end. I took a step toward the hallway, putting a little distance between us. My voice came out lower, tighter. What do you mean he knows? Who are you? The voice hesitated before answering. My name doesn't matter. I used to clerk for Halverton. He told me to answer this call if things went wrong, and they did. Tonight, he paused, exhaling shakily. Your brother wasn't supposed to leave the reception. He wasn't supposed to approach the white Lincoln. You saw that car, didn't you? My pulse hammered in my ears. Yes, I saw a white Lincoln in the parking lot, and you saw him go toward it. I swallowed. Hard. Yes. I remembered it vividly now. Michael slipping out the back door of the reception hall in his wedding suit, jacket over his arm, shoulders stiff. He wasn't smiling. Not like a groom should have been. He wasn't drunk either. He looked determined, focused, a man heading into something he'd been avoiding. I thought maybe he was sneaking a cigarette or getting fresh air. I never imagined, what was he doing? I whispered. The voice tightened, as if choosing each word carefully. If he talked to the man in that car, then he knows Halverton tried to warn you. And that means you need to leave your house. Immediately, I pressed a hand to my forehead. Leave and go where? Tell me what's happening first. Another long breath. I can't explain over the phone. I can't. I'm not safe. Neither is he. Neither is who? Your brother. I closed my eyes. The room felt smaller. Then why did he lie to me? What is happening? Mr. Mallory, the voice said, almost pleading. Please, just get your wife and leave the house. Right now, don't pack. Don't turn on any lights. If your brother arrives before, a loud noise cut him off. A thud, a muffled yell, and then a sharp, shattering sound like something hitting the floor. Hello? I shouted into the phone. What happened? Hello? Static. A faint scrape. A groan. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone, feeling the world tilt under me. My hands were shaking. I didn't even realize I'd dropped the phone until I heard it clatter on the hardwood. Margaret rushed forward. David? What did you hear? What did he say? I picked up the phone slowly, staring at the dark screen. We're leaving, I said. My voice didn't feel like my own, right now. Her face crumpled. Leaving? Where? Why? I didn't answer immediately. I opened the front door just an inch and looked out into the driveway. Nothing but darkness, and the faint hum of a streetlight down the block. No white Lincoln, no movement. But something in my gut twisted anyway. David. Margaret whispered, stepping closer. What aren't you telling me? He said Michael lied, I muttered. And someone might be coming. Coming here? For what? I shook my head quickly. I don't know. But we're not staying to find out. Margaret grabbed her purse with trembling hands. She didn't argue. Not really. She just moved on. Instinct, the same instinct people feel when the air shifts before a storm. She clutched her sweater around her shoulders and looked at me helplessly. Do we take the car? No, I said. My voice was firm this time. Not ours. Then how? A sound cut her off. Not loud, not obvious, but unmistakable. A soft crunch of gravel, like a shoe stepping onto our driveway. We both froze. Margaret covered her mouth with her hand. I turned slowly toward the front window and saw a shadow pass across the faint reflection of the porch light. Someone was there. I grabbed Margaret's arm and pulled her back into the hallway. No noise, I mouthed. She nodded, tears welling. Another sound followed. A quiet metallic rattle, the door handle. Someone was testing it. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. My phone vibrated suddenly, just a single buzz from a notification, and I nearly dropped it again. I looked down. A text message popped up from an unknown number. Do not open the door. My blood ran cold. Before I could react, a knock echoed through the house. Not loud, just a gentle, polite knock you'd hear from a neighbor or a delivery man. 3 taps. Pause. 2 more taps. Margaret clung to my arm. David, who is that? I didn't speak. I didn't breathe. A man's voice came through the door. Calm, too calm. David. My chest tightened. David, it's me, the voice said again. Softer this time. Margaret slapped her hand over her mouth, suppressing a cry. My legs felt unsteady. I moved toward the door with careful steps, keeping Margaret behind me. I didn't open it. I just stood inches from it, listening. David, the voice repeated. I know you're there. We need to talk. My heart hammered. Something was wrong. Very wrong. My brother never spoke like this. Not flat. Not cold. Not without warmth. Where's your car? I asked. Through the door. A pause. Too long. I walked. In a tuxedo. In November. Another pause. Then just let me in, please. I stared at the door. The wood seemed thinner than it ever had. Behind me, Margaret whispered. That's not him. David. That's not your brother. I swallowed hard. Michael, I said. forcing my voice to stay even. Who was in the white Lincoln? No answer. Just silence. Then the soft scrape of a shoe turning on concrete, followed by a single sentence spoken so quietly, I barely heard it. You should have opened the door when you had the chance. The footsteps faded. The shadow disappeared. But the terror didn't. Margaret grabbed my sleeve. We can't stay here. Please, David. She was right. Whoever that was, it wasn't Michael. And if Halverton's clerk was telling the truth, the man at the door hadn't come alone. I locked the door and pulled Margaret toward the back of the house. We slipped into the laundry room just as a second shadow moved across the front window. Not the same height. Not the same build. There were two of them. Maybe more. I opened the back door slowly, praying it wouldn't creak. Margaret swallowed her panic. As we stepped into the yard, the cold air hitting us like a slap. We were 3 steps from the gate when my phone buzzed again. Another text. Same unknown number. If you want to live, don't go to the car, walk. I grabbed Margaret's hand. And then, a deafening crash exploded from inside the house. Glass, wood, something breaking. Someone had kicked in the front door. Margaret gasped. I pulled her behind the shed, crouching low. My hands shook uncontrollably, but my voice stayed steady as I whispered, "Stay quiet and don't look back." We crouched behind the shed, pressed into the cold dirt, listening to the chaos unfolding inside our house. The sound of heavy boots moving across our hardwood floors scraped through the night air. A cabinet slammed. Something metal fell and clattered. Then another voice, deeper, rougher, muttered something I couldn't quite make out. It wasn't the calm voice that claimed to be Michael. This one was irritated, impatient, searching. Margaret gripped my hand so tight her nails dug into my skin, but I didn't tell her to stop. The pain kept me focused. It kept me from spiraling into the panic that kept threatening to swallow the edges of my vision. "David," she whispered into my shoulder. "What do they want?" I shook my head. "I don't know, but they think we're still inside." A faint light flickered across the grass, coming from the kitchen window. A flashlight. Whoever they were checking every corner. "We need to move," I whispered. "Slowly. Don't make a sound." We kept low, sliding behind the shed until we reached the narrow path between our fence and the neighbor's garden. The soil was soft, damp from a sprinkler. Earlier that evening, every step felt louder than it should have, like even the ground wanted to betray us. Behind us, the living room window shattered with a sharp crack. Margaret gasped, and I clapped my hand over her mouth gently. "It's okay," I whispered. "We're not going back. Keep going." We reached the back gate, the small wooden one I'd been meaning to fix for months. Tonight, for the first time, I prayed it wouldn't jam. I pushed it slowly, wincing at the soft groan of hinges that hadn't seen oil in years. But it opened just enough to let us slip through. The night air outside our yard felt different. Wider, but no safer. The street was empty, the quiet suburb suddenly unfamiliar, like every shadow hid a threat. Margaret trembled beside me. "Where do we go?" "Just a few houses down," I said. "To the Kellers. They have a Ring camera and 2 big dogs. It's safer than standing out here." "Do you think they'll be awake?" "They'll wake up when I knock." We moved quickly but quietly along the fence line, staying in the darkest parts of the yard. My heart pounded with each step, imagining the men inside, realizing the house was empty, imagining them stepping outside, imagining the beam of a flashlight landing on us. Halfway down the block, my phone vibrated violently in my pocket. I nearly jumped. Margaret stopped walking entirely, eyes wide. "It's okay," I whispered, pulling it out. Another text from the same unknown number appeared. "They know you left. Get off the street." Before I could even process that, another text followed. "Left side, now." I reacted before thinking. I yanked Margaret toward the huge hedge bordering Mrs. Keller's property. and we dropped behind it just as headlights flashed across the intersection. A car rolled slowly down the street. Not fast, not curious, searching. The same white Lincoln from the wedding. Its engine rumbled quietly, a low, steady hum that felt too controlled, too deliberate. Margaret pressed her hand against her mouth to stifle a sob. Her tears soaked into my sleeve. The Lincoln crawled past our hedge. We stayed frozen. I counted my breaths in my head just to keep from panicking. 1, 2, 3. The car paused. Its brake lights glowed red. Margaret's nails dug into my arm again. Then the car crept forward and turned the corner, disappearing behind the row of houses. I exhaled slowly. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself upright. Come on, we need to get inside their yard. We approached the Kellers' back door. I motioned for Margaret to stay low behind me, while I knocked gently enough to get their dog's attention, but not enough to alert anyone watching the street. 2 seconds later, the familiar sound of their German shepherd, Duke, erupted into a deep bark. Then another bark from their younger dog Luna. Then footsteps. The porch light clicked on. The door cracked open. Mr. Keller squinted at us through the screen, rubbing his eyes. "David, what the hell? Why are you two out here? It's almost 1 in the morning." I stepped closer. "Please, we need to come inside." "I'll explain." He looked over my shoulder at the dark yard, then back at us. Something in my face must have convinced him, because he unlatched the screen immediately. "Get in. Get in." He locked the door behind us and flipped another light. Duke came bounding over, sniffing me urgently before leaning his weight against my leg. Luna nuzzled Margaret's hand, sensing her shaking. "David," Keller said, frowning deeply, "you look like you saw a ghost." I shook my head. "Worse." Margaret sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Keller looked from her to me, concerned. "Tell me what's going on." I took a breath. "Someone broke into our house." His eyes widened. "What? Are you sure?" "I heard them," I said. "2 men, maybe more. They came moments after we got out." Keller stepped back, as if trying to absorb that. "Did you call the police?" I hesitated. My phone buzzed again, and I looked down. A new message appeared. "Do not call 911. Not yet." My mouth went dry. Margaret looked at me, panicked. "Is it him again?" "Yes." "What does he want now?" I didn't answer right away. I read the message 3 times before speaking. "He says not to call the police." "That's insane," Keller muttered. "If someone broke in, he stopped when he saw my face." "David, why would someone tell you not to call the police?" I swallowed. "Because whoever was in that house, they weren't burglars." Keller rubbed the back of his neck. "Then what were they?" I looked at Margaret. She shook her head slightly, silently begging me not to say it, but I had to. "I think they were looking for me." Keller stared. "Why? In God's name?" Another buzz from my phone. I looked down again. "Your brother isn't safe either. You have 1 hour." Fear tightened in my chest. "David," Keller whispered, reading the horror in my expression. "What does it say?" I turned the phone so he could see. His face went pale. Margaret gripped my arm. 1 hour, for what? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Not a text. A call. Same unknown number. I hesitated a moment too long. Keller nodded at me. "Answer it." I tapped the screen and held the phone to my ear. "Hello?" The same strained voice spoke urgently. "David, listen carefully. They're not just after you. They're looking for something your brother had with him at the wedding. Something he shouldn't have had." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What? What did he have?" The voice cracked with fear. "His phone. They want his phone. My brother's phone." "My brother's phone?" I repeated. "Because," the voice whispered, "he recorded something tonight. Something that will destroy a man who's protected by very powerful people." My throat tightened. What did he record? There was a long, trembling pause. Then quietly, a confession. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. Keller stepped closer, gripping the back of a chair like he needed something to steady himself. I forced myself to speak. A confession to what? The answer came soft, shaking, like someone speaking while looking over their shoulder. To a killing, he said. A killing your brother witnessed 30 years ago. My knees nearly buckled. What are you talking about? What killing? More static. Then words that twisted my stomach into knots. David, it wasn't an accident at all. And if your brother still has that recording, they'll silence him. Just like they tried to silence the judge. I felt the room spin. My voice barely came out. Where is Michael now? The man hesitated. I don't know. You must know something. I know he ran, the voice said. I know he left the reception early for a reason, and I know they're following his trail. Margaret grabbed my sleeve. David, what if he comes here? Before I could answer, the man on the phone added something that made my blood turn to ice. And David, if they find him before you do, he won't live until morning. For a moment the room went completely silent. So silent I could hear the soft ticking of the Keller's kitchen clock, each second landing like a hammer in my chest. My brother, my own flesh and blood, running for his life somewhere in the night. I swallowed hard. Tell me where he went. Anything. A direction? A street? Something. The voice on the phone hesitated. I could hear muffled breathing, the shuffle of someone moving quietly, urgently. He said he was going to the only place he thought they wouldn't watch. The old highway. Mile marker 12. He used to take you there as kids. Right. My breath caught. The old service road. The abandoned rest stop where we used to skip rocks and dare each other to crawl under the fence near the water plant. No cameras, no lights, just emptiness. Why there? Keller asked from behind me. I put the call on speaker. The voice answered. He needed somewhere dark, somewhere he could hide, or send the recording if he had to. Margaret pressed her palms together, like she was praying. Is he sending it to the police? No, the man said quickly. He doesn't trust the police. Not with this. Keller's jaw tightened. Then who does he trust? The hesitation was long enough to raise every hair on my arms. Only one person, the voice said. His brother. My stomach twisted. Why me? Because he didn't know who else was clean. I opened my mouth to ask another question, but the line suddenly filled with static. Then went dead. No warning, no goodbye. I stared at the phone as if it had betrayed me. No, no, no. Come on. I redialed, but it rang once, then went straight to a failed call screen. They cut him off, Keller said. Margaret grabbed my wrist. David, you're shaking. I hadn't even noticed. Keller stepped forward with that calm, steady voice he saved for real emergencies. We call the police. Now. I shook my head sharply. No, not yet. David, this is insane, he said. If criminals are chasing your brother, if my brother recorded one of them confessing to a murder, I cut in, then the moment that recording hits official channels, they'll know. And they'll come faster. Keller stared at me. You're telling me you think someone inside law enforcement is involved? I don't know, I said. But my brother did. Margaret stepped closer, her voice trembling. Then what do we do, David? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The fear in her eyes, the exhaustion, the trust, and I knew I had to move. We go to him, I said. Right now. Margaret shook her head instantly. No, no. David, there were men in our house. They'll be watching the street. Keller tapped the table, thinking. Take my truck. It's old, no GPS, no digital trail, and it's loud enough to mask you leaving if someone's listening. I nodded. Thank you. Margaret grabbed my arm. I'm coming with you. No. Her face broke. You can't leave me here not knowing if I held her shoulders gently. If they follow me, you need to stay safe. Please, stay with the Kellers. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone. She looked at me like I was already halfway gone. Swear you'll come back. I swallowed. I swear. Keller tossed me his keys. Take Duke with you. The shepherd perked up. Margaret blinked. Why Duke? He'll hear someone before you will, Keller said. And he doesn't scare easy. Duke trotted to my side, ready. I took one last look at Margaret. Her small figure folded into the Keller's kitchen chair, her hands trembling around a mug Keller had given her. I'll call when I find him, I said. Then I stepped out into the night. The air was colder now, sharper. Every shadow felt alive, every passing car a threat. Duke stayed low beside me, ears perked, eyes scanning everything. Keller's old truck sat under the streetlight, rust on the fenders, engine block still warm. I opened the door and Duke hopped in first, taking his place on the passenger seat like he'd done it 100 times. I started the engine. It growled loudly. Good, masking noise. I pulled out of the driveway and drove with my headlights off until the street curved toward the hill. Only when I reached the end of the block did I turn them on. The road ahead was empty. The night felt like it was holding its breath. When I hit the highway, my phone buzzed again. I nearly dropped it. A new text, from the same unknown number, Hevery. They're close. And then another check under your brother's seat before you arrive. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the message, trying to understand, under his seat. Duke let out a low growl, staring through the windshield. Yeah, I whispered, gripping the wheel. I hear it too. A pair of headlights had just appeared behind us, far back, but too steady to be random. Not overtaking, not slowing, just following. My pulse quickened. I pressed my foot down, and Keller's truck roared forward, rattling, shaking, but gaining speed. Duke barked once. A sharp warning. I checked the rearview mirror. The headlights behind us sped up, and then they changed lanes, closing the distance. Fast. Duke, I whispered. Hold on. I pushed the accelerator to the floor. The truck surged. The tires squealed. The night tore open around us, but the headlights behind us didn't waver. They got closer and closer, and then they flashed, twice. A signal. A warning. Or something much, much worse. The headlights behind me flickered again, fast and deliberate like a heartbeat in the dark. My hands were white around the wheel. Duke at my side growling low, his hackles raised. My chest pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Every nerve in my body screamed that we were being hunted. But I couldn't stop, not now. Not when Michael's life was on the line. I gritted my teeth and swerved the truck onto the shoulder, trying to make it look like I was lost, hoping the flash had been a misread signal, some random reflection. But the Lincoln stayed on my tail, relentless, its engine barely audible over mine. I dared a glance in the rearview mirror. 2 men inside, not moving, just sitting perfectly still, letting the night stretch, watching, waiting. Duke growled louder, warning me. His ears flicked toward the passenger side mirror. My gaze followed. Something glimmered near the edge of the road, just past the tree line. A shadow? A figure? I couldn't be sure, and I didn't have time to stop analyzing. My phone buzzed again. A text from the same unknown number. They know you have it. Get out of the truck. I cursed under my breath. Out of the truck? Into the woods? The only path I could see ran alongside the service road toward the abandoned rest stop. My pulse surged. The place Michael had gone. The place where he had tried to hide whatever recording he had. Margaret's warning echoed in my head. Stay safe. Don't go out there. I ignored it. There was no choice. If Michael had made it this far, if he had the recording, someone else would find it before I did. And if that happened, I couldn't even imagine. I hit a turnoff. a gravel path I hadn't driven since childhood, and the truck bounced violently, shaking my arms and rattling Duke's paws against the floor. The Lincoln followed without hesitation. Whoever was inside knew every shortcut, every turn I could take. Every instinct screamed at me. They were professionals. I slowed as the path narrowed, hidden under the shadow of thick trees. I could see the faint outline of the rest stop ahead, rusted signs, peeling paint, a broken street lamp swaying in the wind. The perfect place to hide. Perfect place for someone to wait. My phone buzzed again. Look under the seat. I froze. My eyes darted to the passenger side. Duke's head turned sharply toward the seat. My heart sank. I unclipped the seatbelt, lifted the cushion, and my fingers grazed a small object wrapped in black plastic. A USB drive. My blood ran cold. This had to be it. Michael's proof. The recording. Before I could even breathe, the Lincoln slammed its brakes. The tires skidded on gravel. A door opened. 2 men stepped out. Tall, heavy, black coats. Their faces obscured by shadows. One moved toward the front of the truck, the other around back. My mind screamed, "This is it. Now or never." I glanced down at the USB. I tucked it into my jacket, close to my chest. Duke growled, low and threatening, warning the men. One of them swung toward us. I shoved the truck into gear and stomped the accelerator. The Lincoln's headlights blazed across the trees. They ran to catch up, but the truck hit a small bump, launching me forward. Branches scraped the roof. Duke barked relentlessly, and the shadow behind us dove aside, but the other stayed on our trail, sprinting toward the road. I cursed, steering sharply onto a narrow path that ran behind the rest stop. Gravel shot out behind us. The Lincoln's engine roared in pursuit, closer than I thought possible. The man at the back of the truck stopped momentarily, gripping a long object. A gun? My stomach dropped. "Hold on, Duke," I yelled, slamming the truck into the next turn. The shadow disappeared behind a clump of trees. The Lincoln screeched around the bend, but I had an idea. The rest stop had an old service tunnel, an underground drainage passage we used to play in as kids. Narrow, hardly a truck fit. But I knew it. Michael had probably hoped I would know it too. I swerved toward the tunnel entrance, gravel spraying. Duke barked and leapt as if warning me of the danger. I saw the Lincoln hesitate at the entrance. They couldn't follow, not without risking the car flipping into the ditch. I exhaled, but my relief was short-lived. The darkness of the tunnel swallowed us, hiding us from sight, but also hiding Michael's trail. I had no idea if he had already left, or worse, if someone was waiting deeper inside. I turned on the dim dome light, revealing the USB tucked into my jacket. This could be the key to everything. Proof of something that had been buried for decades. Something that powerful men wanted dead silenced forever. Duke sniffed the ground, his body tense, alert. A faint noise echoed from the far end of the tunnel. Footsteps, fast, deliberate. Not mine, not ours. "Michael," I whispered. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice, low and unfamiliar, called, "David Mallory, you shouldn't be here." I froze. Duke growled, hackles raised. My blood ran cold. Whoever this was, they knew me by name. They were waiting for me. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering. I could feel Duke's body trembling beside me. I whispered, "Show yourself. I know you're here." A shadow moved from the darkness. A figure tall, broad-shouldered. Not Michael, not at first glance. But then, a voice I thought I'd never hear again, calm and precise. "Looking for him," Hewinstu said. I recognized it instantly. Judge Halverton. And suddenly everything changed, because the man I had feared the most was the only person who could help. I froze in the tunnel, my heart hammering so violently I thought it might break my ribs. Judge Halverton's silhouette filled the dim light, leaning against the concrete wall like he'd been waiting there for hours. His face was calm, almost unreadable, but his eyes carried a weight I'd never seen before, a mixture of fear, guilt, and urgency. "Halverton," I whispered, my voice shaking. Why are you here?" He didn't answer immediately. He scanned the tunnel behind me, checking the shadows. Duke growled low in my direction. Ears flicked toward the sound of distant movement. Halverton's eyes met mine, sharp, now commanding. "There's no time, David. They're coming, and if we stay here we'll both be dead before your brother even knows the danger." I pressed myself further into the wall, clutching the USB to my chest. "Then why not tell me earlier? Why send the messages? Why all this secrecy?" Halverton's shoulders sagged. "Just for a moment. Because I was supposed to protect him. Protect all of you. I failed before. I won't fail again. Your brother, he witnessed something he shouldn't have 30 years ago. Something so dangerous that the wrong people killing him would cover decades of lies. And David, they're powerful. People who pull strings from the shadows." I swallowed hard, shaking my head. "I don't understand. Michael, what did he see?" Halverton's voice dropped almost to a whisper, like saying it too loudly would summon more danger. "A man he trusted. A man who was supposed to protect our town killed someone. And Michael recorded it. He has proof. That recording, if it surfaces, lives will change, careers will end, and some people will die to keep it buried." I felt my knees weaken. "And now they're after him, and me." "Yes," Halverton said flatly. "And if you don't act quickly, both of you will pay the price." I looked at him, trying to process everything. My brother's wedding, the call, the garage, the men in our house, the Lincoln, and now this Halverton standing in a dark tunnel, the man I'd once feared more than anyone, suddenly my only chance. Halverton motioned me forward. "We have to move. Now." The only place he could go from the rest stop is the old maintenance road. He knows it. I know it. They know it. And if we get there fast enough, we might intercept him before they do. I grabbed the truck keys from my pocket. "Do you drive?" He shook his head. "Not this time. You take the truck. I'll follow on foot. The maintenance road splits into paths too narrow for vehicles. I'll guide you once we're near." I glanced at Duke, who barked softly as if agreeing. My pulse spiked, but fear had transformed into sharp focus. "All right, let's go." We emerged from the tunnel, the cold night air slapping my face. Halverton fell in beside me, moving with surprising speed for a man his age. I could feel the urgency radiating off him. The truck rumbled over the gravel as I hit the highway again. The Lincoln was gone, but I knew it was only a matter of time before they tracked us. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly, my knuckles ached. The road stretched ahead, dark and desolate, only the occasional flicker of a distant street lamp. I kept my eyes on the path, glancing at Halverton occasionally, trying to gauge what he was thinking. His face was tight, controlled, but there was something I couldn't read, a hint of panic buried under his calm demeanor. "David," he said suddenly, his voice low, "once we find Michael, you have to listen carefully. He's been running for hours. He may be scared, angry, even suspicious of you. You cannot push him. Not yet. If you push him, if you frighten him even slightly, we lose him." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I won't fail him." "You've never had a choice before," Halverton said, voice dropping further. "But now, you do." The truck turned onto a narrow, overgrown path. I recognized immediately the maintenance road. Patches of mud glimmered in the headlights. Old signage, peeling paint, a faint smell of gasoline and rot hung in the air. Duke's ears flicked forward, his nose twitching at something unseen. I slowed, aware of every sound. Footsteps behind the trees, shadows moving. My pulse quickened with every small noise. Stop here, Halverton whispered, pointing to a narrow clearing. He'll be ahead near the old water tower. That's where he often went when he needed to hide as a kid. It's the last safe place on this path. I cut the engine, and the sudden silence felt deafening. The air seemed thick. Duke growled low, leaning forward, ears pinned. Halverton gestured for me to follow on foot. We can't take the truck any further. They'll see it, and if Michael sees it, he'll panic. I nodded, grabbed the USB, and followed Halverton into the darkness. The truck behind us was our only anchor. The trees closed in around us, branches scratching at our jackets, the moonlight barely illuminating the path. Halverton whispered occasionally, guiding me silently around thick roots, puddles, and uneven ground. Each step felt deliberate, slow, tense. Every shadow seemed alive. Suddenly, a faint light flickered up ahead. Michael. He was crouched near the water tower, shoulders hunched, phone in hand, flashlight barely on. Relief hit me so hard I almost ran toward him. But Halverton's hand stopped me. Not yet, he whispered. Let him see you, not in a rush. He needs to think he's alone. I froze, breathing hard. My eyes locked on Michael. He looked different, older, tense, and scared, but unmistakably my brother. My heart ached seeing him like this, the boy who had once trusted me with everything, now hiding in fear from people I hadn't even met yet. Then I saw it, the Lincoln, far back, hidden between trees, engine running, someone watching, two shadows inside. My blood ran cold. Halverton's hand on my shoulder tightened. One wrong move, and it's over. Remember, David, he's the only one who knows the truth. Protect him. Do not let them see you. I nodded, my hands trembling. Duke growled low, warning us of the danger. We stepped closer, careful, silent, hearts hammering in unison, and then Michael looked up. Our eyes met, relief, fear, confusion, all in one look. Before either of us could speak, the sound of a vehicle approaching from behind, the Lincoln moving fast, too fast. Halverton whispered urgently, Now, move, quiet, fast, or they'll get him first. I grabbed Michael's arm gently. It's me. You're safe. I'm here. His eyes widened, then narrowed with recognition, disbelief, and trust, all at once. But the night wasn't over. Because somewhere in the darkness, the men following the Lincoln knew exactly where we were, and the final confrontation, the truth, was about to begin. We moved slowly, silently, weaving between the trees toward Michael. His flashlight wavered, the beam cutting through patches of darkness, but he didn't see us yet. Duke stayed close, low to the ground, growling softly, ears pinned forward, a warning in every movement. Halverton whispered behind me, guiding our steps like a shadow on my back. David, you have to be careful, he said. One false move, and they'll know. Don't rush him, I nodded, gripping Michael's shoulder gently. It's me, Mike, your brother. Michael froze. His body tensed. He turned, eyes wide, staring into the darkness. Recognition and relief flickered for a moment. Then confusion. David, you made it? His voice shook. I didn't know who I could trust. I know, I said softly. You're safe now, but we need to move, fast. He glanced around nervously. They're close. I can feel it. Yes, Halverton said sharply. 2 vehicles behind us. One's keeping distance. The other, they're circling. You have to run now. Michael hesitated. His hands went to his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small black device. His phone. My stomach sank. He was carrying the recording. They'll kill us if they get this, he whispered. I can't lose it, David. You don't understand. They've been covering for him all these years, all these decades. If anyone finds this, his voice trailed off. Fear was written across his face like a map of every danger he'd faced. I grabbed his arm firmly. "We'll protect it. You're not alone. I've got you." He nodded, swallowing hard, and we started moving toward the edge of the water tower clearing. Branches snapped under our feet, the sound too loud, but the darkness was our ally. I glanced behind us. The Lincoln had slowed. Two figures were visible now, moving in the shadows of the vehicle's headlights, scanning the tree line. They hadn't noticed us yet, but it was only a matter of time. "Split up," Halverton hissed suddenly. "It's the only way. If they see all three of us together, it's over. David, take Michael down the left path. I'll distract them." I hesitated. "Alone? What about Duke?" Halverton shook his head. "He'll follow you. Go. Now." I grabbed Michael's hand. Duke leapt forward at our side. Halverton disappeared into the shadows, his figure merging with the night. I could hear him moving behind the other Lincoln, creating noise, baiting them, buying us seconds we desperately needed. Michael and I ran down the narrow left path, branches clawing at our jackets, the mud beneath our feet sucking at our shoes. Every snap of a twig sounded like a gunshot. My pulse pounded so hard I thought they'd hear it. "David," Michael whispered urgently. "We have to stop. We need a plan. They're going to follow us." "They know we have it." "Not yet," I said. My voice calmed despite the chaos. "We keep moving until we find somewhere to hide. Then we figure out the next step." We ducked behind a large fallen tree. Duke growled low, scanning the darkness. Michael crouched beside me, breathing ragged. "Do you have any idea what's on this recording?" I shook my head. "Only that it's proof of something dangerous, something someone killed to protect." Halverton said, "It could destroy people." Michael swallowed hard. "It's worse than you think. It's not just a confession. It's proof of a murder, David. Someone high up. Someone untouchable." I felt my stomach drop. "And they've been covering it for decades." "Yes," he whispered. "They thought burying it would keep them safe, but I recorded it tonight, at the wedding." I had no choice. A sound from behind. A snapping branch. Someone was moving down the right path. I looked over my shoulder. A shadow emerged from the trees, close enough for me to see the outline of a tall man. "Halverton." He waved sharply. The distraction was working. "They're focused on me," Halverton mouthed, before disappearing back into the darkness. We crouched lower and moved again, careful, quiet. Michael's hands shook. Duke's growl deepened. The shadows behind us shifted, another figure approaching, slower, methodical. My pulse spiked. "David," Michael whispered, voice barely audible. "If they get me," I grabbed his shoulders. "They won't, not while I'm here. Focus. We're almost to the old maintenance shack. We can hide there. The recording stays safe." We reached the shack, a crumbling wooden structure. Roof half caved in, walls weathered, perfect for hiding. I nudged Michael inside first. Keeping low, Duke entered and curled at our feet. Alert, I placed the USB safely inside my jacket pocket. From outside we could hear movement, the Lincoln's engine revving, voices shouting, orders being given. I couldn't make out the words, but the urgency was clear. Someone was closing in. "David," Michael said, "we can't just stay here. We have to make a move." "I know," I said, "but we wait until they come closer. Let them make the first mistake, hours, or maybe minutes." It felt impossible to tell. Passed. The night stretched around us, thick with tension. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the snap of a twig, the distant hoot of an owl, made our hearts jump. Then, from outside, a faint whisper. "He's in the shack." My blood ran cold. The men had found us. Duke growled, backing toward me. Michael's hands trembled. My mind raced. We couldn't stay. We had to escape. But there was only one path out, and it was narrow, covered by shadows. I took a deep breath. Michael, listen. When I give the word, we run. You trust me? Yes, he whispered, though his voice was breaking. Good. Wait for my signal. The footsteps outside grew louder. Someone was at the door. I peeked through the crack. 2 men, tall, black coats, faces obscured. They were methodical, searching. I whispered to Michael. Now, we bolted through the back exit, Duke leading the charge, the cold air hitting us like knives. Branches scraped our faces, mud clung to our shoes. Behind us, shouts rang out, louder, angrier. We ran straight into the woods. Halverton, emerging from the shadows behind us, gun in hand. This way, he shouted, motioning to a narrow path leading toward the river. I grabbed Michael's arm again. Hold on. Don't look back. The Lincoln's headlights cut through the trees again, too far behind to catch us immediately, but closing. Michael gasped. David. What now? Now we survive, I said. We make it to the river, and we take the recording with us. Nothing else matters. Not them. Not anyone. Just us. The sound of rushing water grew louder. Relief flickered. We could almost taste safety. But as we emerged from the thickest part of the forest, the Lincoln's engine roared again, and we realized the night wasn't over. Because whoever had killed before, whoever had been covering up the truth for 30 years, was willing to kill again for the recording. For Michael. For me. And the chase was far from finished. The river came into view just ahead, its black water reflecting the faint light of the moon. The current roared quietly, deceptive in its calmness. Halverton led the way, ducking under low branches, his movements sharp, precise. I followed with Michael close, gripping the USB tightly, while Duke ran at our side, growling low with each snapping branch underfoot. The Lincoln's headlights cut through the forest behind us, bouncing off trees, shadows stretched like claws reaching for us. Halverton glanced back. They're faster than you think. Don't slow down. Keep moving until we reach the bridge. That's where we can finally plan our next move. Bridge? Michael asked, breath ragged. How far is it? Not far, Halverton said. But the path is treacherous. One misstep, and the river claims us. I swallowed hard. My legs burned, but fear kept me going. Every step made the sound of pursuit feel heavier in my chest. I could hear the Lincoln's engine, a low, throbbing threat in the distance. The men inside were shouting now, probably frustrated by Halverton's distraction and our disappearance. As we moved, Michael whispered, voice trembling, David, do you know what they'd do if they caught us with this recording? I shook my head, my jaw tight. I can only guess. But whatever it is, it won't be good. We have to keep it safe. Duke barked suddenly, alerting us to movement in the bushes on the side of the path. A figure emerged, tall, imposing, but not one of the men from the Lincoln. It was someone I didn't recognize, a shadowy figure in a dark coat, gliding silently between the trees. I froze. Who's that? Michael whispered. Halverton's eyes narrowed. An ally or another threat. Keep your distance. The figure stepped forward, raising hands in surrender. I'm not here to hurt you, the voice said quietly. But you need to move faster. They're splitting up. One group is following you. Another is heading toward the bridge to cut you off. I exchanged a glance with Michael. How do we know we can trust him? Because he's the only person willing to guide us this far, Halverton said sharply. And right now, trust is a luxury we don't have. I nodded. Fine. Lead the way. The stranger motioned for us to follow, and we moved through a narrow path barely wide enough for the 3 of us, Duke weaving between our legs. The river's roar grew louder, signaling that we were almost there. My pulse hammered in my ears, and the USB felt impossibly heavy in my jacket pocket. Every step was a countdown. every snap of a branch behind us, a reminder that our pursuers were relentless. Finally the bridge appeared, a rusted, narrow structure stretching across the river. The current below was black and churning, the water reflecting nothing but shadows. I felt my stomach twist. One misstep, and we could be swept away. Halverton gestured for us to stop. We split here. Michael, you and David go first. I'll cover your rear. Keep low and quiet. I grabbed Michael's hand tightly. Ready? He nodded, fear written across his face, but also determination. Ready? We moved onto the bridge, its wooden planks groaning under our weight. Every step felt loud, echoing in the night, the river below swallowing our sound. I could see the Lincoln's headlights in the distance, cutting through the forest, moving toward us faster than I expected. Halfway across, Michael stumbled, almost losing his balance. I caught him just in time, pressing him close. "Stay with me," I whispered. Duke growled, low and threatening. Ears pinned forward. The shadow from earlier had moved to the bridge as well, silent and calm, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the Lincoln's engine roared even louder, and one of the men jumped from the vehicle, running toward us with a gun raised. My heart nearly stopped. "Run!" Halverton shouted from behind, firing a warning shot. The bullet whizzed past, scraping a plank dangerously close to where we stood. Michael screamed, and I shoved him forward. "Go, don't look back." We ran, Duke leading the way, halting only for a second when the planks threatened to give under our weight. I could feel the vibration through my feet, the wood bending, and I prayed it would hold. The gunman fired again, but Halverton's shots from behind forced him to dive for cover. We made it to the far end of the bridge, lungs burning, hearts hammering, legs trembling. The river roared below, unforgiving and dark. We dropped to the ground behind some brush, gasping for air. Michael clutched the USB, shaking. "David." I know," I said, swallowing hard. "But we made it. We're alive. For now." Halverton crouched beside us, wiping sweat from his brow. "They'll regroup. And they know the recording exists. We can't stay here long." I glanced at Michael. "Do you understand what's on this?" He nodded, his hands trembling. "It's everything. The murder. Names. Dates. Proof that some of the most untouchable people in this town have been covering crimes for decades. If this gets out, everything changes." I swallowed. "And that's why they're trying to kill us." "Yes," Halverton said, "and that's why you have to decide, do we run or do we fight?" I looked at Michael. His face was pale, but his eyes held the same stubborn courage he's had since childhood. "We fight," he whispered. "We can't let them bury this again." Duke growled, sensing our resolve. The shadowy figure from earlier stepped closer. "If you want to survive, you need a plan. They won't stop until the recording is gone, or until one of you is dead." I nodded. "Then we need to split their forces. We need a diversion." Halverton's eyes narrowed. "I have an idea. But it's risky. Extremely risky." Michael clutched my arm. "Do we have a choice?" I shook my head. "Not really." Halverton outlined the plan quietly, every word deliberate. "We draw some of the pursuers away, trap the others, and secure the recording. Every step had to be perfect." My hands shook as I listened. Every shadow in the trees seemed alive, every rustle a threat. The Lincoln's engine could be heard faintly again in the distance. Time was running out. Finally, Halverton finished. "We either do this now, or we lose everything. They'll take Michael, the USB, and anyone standing in their way. Your call, David." I looked at Michael, then at Halverton. "We do it now." The night grew colder, darker, the river roaring beneath us, as if urging us forward. And as we prepared to confront our pursuers, I knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same after this night, because the truth we held could kill as easily as it could save. We crouched, behind the thick brush at the far side of the riverbank, the black water roaring below, drowning out everything except our own ragged breaths. Halverton whispered instructions, the plan clear in his mind, precise. Michael clutched the USB against his chest, eyes wide, filled with fear but also determination. Duke growled low, the sound vibrating through the night, warning that the danger was near and that retreat was no longer an option. "David," Halverton said quietly, "we split them. I'll take the north side. You and Michael take the south. Draw them toward the bridge. Make them think we're trying to escape. Then we trap them." I nodded. "Got it." "We stick to the plan." Michael swallowed hard. "I don't know if I can do this," he whispered, trembling. "Yes, you can," I said firmly. "We've made it this far. We survived together. And the recording, it has to be safe." Duke barked sharply, as if agreeing as a flash of headlights pierced the trees behind us. The Lincoln approached, slow, methodical, its engine growling in the darkness. Two figures stepped out, scanning the river bank, rifles in hand. I signaled Michael. "Stay low. Wait for my signal." Halverton moved silently to the north, a shadow among shadows. He fired a warning shot into the air. One of the men spun toward him, but before they could react further, Halverton disappeared back into the trees, drawing them away. The plan was working. I grabbed Michael's arm. "Run," I whispered. We sprinted down the narrow southern path, Duke bounding ahead, every step careful but urgent. Branches whipped against our faces. Mud clung to our shoes. The men turned, shouting now. But it was too late. We had momentum. The bridge was in sight. Its rusted structure loomed above the river like a monument to forgotten secrets. I ducked behind a plank, Michael close, trying to catch our breath. "We need to make them think we're cornered," I said. Michael nodded. Fear evident, but his jaw was set. "What now?" I reached into my jacket, holding the USB tightly. "Now, we use it. It's the bait and the truth." From the northern path, Halverton appeared, gun ready, signaling that the other group of pursuers had taken the bait. They were moving toward him, leaving only two men to focus on us. I whispered to Michael. "Ready?" He nodded. I pressed a finger to my lips, then tossed the USB into the open river just below the bridge. The current was strong, and the small black device disappeared beneath the churning water. The men's eyes widened as they realized what we had done. "That's it?" one of them yelled. "That proves nothing." I stood, hands raised, showing nothing but calm resolve. "It proves everything," I said. "And you're too late to stop it." Duke lunged at the nearest man, teeth bared, forcing him backward. Michael grabbed a large branch and swung it with all his strength at the other, sending him stumbling. Halverton emerged from the northern path, firing shots into the air. Chaos erupted. The Lincoln's engine roared as the remaining men jumped inside and tried to pursue, but Duke's aggressive stance forced them to retreat. Michael and I ran toward the riverbank, now empty except for the sound of water. The USB was gone, but Halverton's voice rang in my ears. "It's out of their hands now. The truth is moving, and nothing can stop it." I looked at Michael. Relief flooded my body, but fear lingered. "Are you sure it's safe?" He nodded, tears streaming. "Yes, it's gone. But everyone will know soon. And they can't stop it." Halverton approached us, gun lowered but eyes still scanning. "They'll regroup. But the damage is done. The recording, even if it's destroyed physically, it's been copied. Out there, somewhere, people will see the truth. And the ones responsible, they won't escape justice forever." I sank to the ground, exhausted. Duke laid beside me, panting. Michael collapsed next to me, finally allowing himself to breathe. The tension in the night seemed to lift slightly, replaced with the quiet understanding that we had survived, but the world had shifted. Michael whispered, voice trembling, "We did it. We actually did it." I nodded. Yes, but it's only the beginning. The recording, the truth, it's out there. And it will change everything. Halverton looked at us. Somber. You've survived the night, but now the real challenge begins. They'll try to recover it, intimidate, threaten, and cover it up. But you two, you've proven that courage matters, that the truth matters. And sometimes that's enough to survive. I glanced at Michael, at Duke, at Halverton. Exhaustion and relief warred within me, but I knew he was right. Nothing would ever be the same again. The events of this night, the danger, the chase, the revelation of decades-old crimes, it had changed us forever. The Lincoln's engine faded into the distance. The night grew still. The river roared steadily beneath the bridge. And for the first time, I allowed myself to hope. Michael looked up at me. Voice small, but resolute. David, what now? I pressed a hand to his shoulder. Now we survive. Now we make sure the world knows what they tried to hide, and we make sure justice isn't buried like it was for 30 years. Duke barked, almost as if agreeing. Halverton straightened, finally lowering his gun completely. Go home. Regroup. And remember tonight, you did the impossible. I looked at Michael one last time before standing. We did it together. No matter what comes next, we survive this together. The three of us left the riverbank, stepping carefully into the shadows of the trees, the night swallowing us once again, but this time, not as hunted but as survivors, because the recording, the truth, the danger, it had been unleashed, and nothing would ever allow it to be buried again.